In a vibrant cultural festival in downtown Ohio, the streets were lined with colorful booths, the air filled with the sweet aroma of fried foods, sizzling meats, and the sound of lively music. People of all backgrounds mingle, exchanging smiles and conversations. The sun is low, casting a warm glow over the crowd. Susan Harper, a 52-year-old white American, stands awkwardly by a food stall, her arms folded across her chest. The festival is noisy and the crowd overwhelms her. She looks around and tries to smile at the people around her, but her discomfort is palpable. Beth, her bubbly, outgoing Asian neighbor, stands beside her, laughing and chatting with strangers as if it's the most natural thing in the world. Come on, Susan, live a little. There's a whole world out here. You can't just stay cooped up in that house all the time, Beth urges with a wink. Susan smiles but feels out of place. I don't know, Beth. This just feels overwhelming. Beth, the ever-optimist, nudges her. Look, Susan, we've been neighbors for years. You deserve to get out of this quiet little bubble of yours. Besides, you never know who you'll meet. Just enjoy it. I'll be right there. Beth's infectious energy pulls Susan along, and as they walk through the crowd, Susan can't help but notice the joy of the people around her. Music fills the air, and the laughter is everywhere. That's when she first sees him. Standing at a booth selling African art, a tall man with an intense yet kind gaze stands chatting with a group of people. He's dressed casually but stylishly, his dark skin glowing under the warm sun. He notices Susan and Beth walking by and their eyes meet. Hello, ladies, he calls out with a friendly grin. Beth, always the social one, steps up immediately. Hi, beautiful day, isn't it? I'd say it is now, the man replies, a playful spark in his eyes. He pauses for a moment. My name's Ade. I'm originally from Lagos, Nigeria. What about you? Susan hesitates, feeling her heart race. I'm Susan, from Ohio, she replies, offering a warm but slightly shy smile. This is my friend Beth. Beth nods enthusiastically. Ha ha ha, she's a bit of a homebody, but I'm working on her, she says with a laugh. Ade smiles, his eyes brightening. A homebody? You're in the right place then. We need to get you out of that shell, Susan. What do you think? Susan laughs nervously. I'm trying, honestly. So where are you from, Ade? Beth asks, genuinely curious. I'm from Lagos, he said proudly. But I've been here in Ohio for a few years now, working on my studies. Susan glances at him curiously. And how are you liking it here? It's been great, Ade replies. But I do miss home sometimes. There's something about the food, the culture, and the people. Ohio is a little different, if I would say. Susan laughs lightly. I imagine so. I've never been anywhere else outside Ohio. It's all I've really known. Ade looks thoughtful for a moment before responding. Maybe I could show you around. There's more to this world than Ohio. What do you say? Susan feels a small spark of interest, but brushes it off. I'm not much of a traveler, but it's nice to meet you, Ade. I hope we can talk more later, Ade says, smiling. I'd love to get to know you better. As they walk away, Beth gives Susan a sly look. Well, Susan, Harper, looks like you've caught someone's eyes. Several weeks later, in Susan's living room, the glow of lamps filled the space, casting long shadows on the walls as Susan and Ade sit together, sipping wine. They've been spending more time together, long walks, dinners, deep conversations about life, dreams, and disappointments. Susan feels a connection to him. They laugh and talk as if they've known each other for years, and yet she is still hesitant, unsure if it could be real. Ade, she begins, carefully choosing her words. This has been so much fun, but I think I need to know more about your situation here. You've been in Ohio for a while, right? Ade looks at her with a soft smile, his voice gentle. You are right to ask. I've been here a few years now on a student visa. He pauses, the smile fading slightly. My visa is about to expire. Susan's heart sinks a little. So what happens then? Ade takes a deep breath. I have a couple of options, but I can't go back home yet. I've built a life here, Susan. I need more time. Susan frowns, concerned. Can you renew your visa? It is complicated, Ade says, his voice growing quieter. If I could marry someone with citizenship here, that will give me the legal grounds to stay. He hesitates, glancing at her with a mixture of hope and fear. I'm asking you, Susan, would you be willing to help me? Susan feels a knot form inside her stomach. She wants to help. She knows the struggles immigrants face, especially when it comes to staying in the US. But marriage? Was she really ready for that kind of commitment? Ade, we've only known each other for a short time, she says, her voice trembling with uncertainty. How can I be sure this is what you really want? I care about you, Susan, Ade says, his eyes intense but sincere. I've never asked anyone else for this, but with you, I feel like I can build something real. I just need the chance. Susan's mind races, her emotions at war. She wants to believe in him, to believe in something more than the loneliness she has felt for a long time. Maybe this could be her chance of a new beginning. Okay, Susan says quietly. I'll do it. Days later, in a quiet family dinner at Susan's home, the table is set and the familiar smells of her cooking fill the air. Her family is seated around the table, chatting casually. Linda, her sister, watches Susan closely. So, Susan, how is everything going with that guy, Ade? Linda asks, glancing at her sister with concern. Susan smiles, her eyes lighting up. It's going well, he's so kind, and we're really building something together. I hope you're not rushing into anything, Linda says, her tone more serious than Susan expects. You've been through a lot, Susan, and I don't want you getting hurt. You don't understand, Susan counters, her voice defensive. He's not like the others. He wants to stay here, but he really cares about me. Linda exchanges a glance with their mother. Are you sure, Susan? He's not even told you everything. Don't let your emotions cloud your judgments. The mother, who has been silent until now, finally speaks. Susan, we've raised you better than this. Don't make the mistake of thinking that a marriage of convenience will turn into something real. You deserve someone who loves you for who you are, not just for what you can give. I know what I'm doing, Susan says, her voice steady but strained. I trust him. He's the one I want to be with. Several months later, Ade and Susan are now married. Ade is seated on the couch in their home, scrolling through his phone. Susan, now a few months into the marriage, watches him, her mind racing. There's something wrong. She can feel it. The affection that once had been so natural between them is now strained and distant. Ade spends more time on his phone, rarely engaging with her. He's become more critical and more distant. You know, Susan, he says one night as they sit down on the table for dinner, you really need to work harder on your appearance. I don't know how you expect me to stay satisfied when you're not even trying anymore. Susan feels the sting in his words, her face burning. What do you mean? She asks, her voice trembling. I'm just saying, Ade continues coldly. You're getting older. You need to put in some effort if you expect me to stick around. The words felt like a slap to her face. He had promised to care for her, to help her, but now he was taking jabs at her self-esteem. Susan bites her lip, holding back the tears, threatening to spill over. Several days later, in Susan's home office, the sun filters through the blinds, casting long shadows across the room. Susan sits at her desk, flipping through the mail, when she comes across an envelope with Ade's name on it. It's an official medical document. Confused, she opens it. Her hand shakes as she reads the results. Ade has tested positive for an STD. The weight of the words presses down on her chest. How could he? Susan's mind races as everything she suspected begins to fall into place. The distance, the late nights, the secretive behavior. It was all too much to ignore. Her hand trembles as she reads the words. How could he? The room feels like it's spinning as her mind races. Was he seeing someone else? Has he been lying the whole time? The truth stabs her in the chest. This was more than just a physical betrayal. It was a lie about everything. The secrecy, the late nights, the coldness. It all made sense now. He has been seeing some other woman. She feels the room closing on her, her chest tightening as she panics. She doesn't know how to breathe through the hurt. What now? Later that evening, in the kitchen, Susan had barely said a word to Ade all day. She's been stewing in silence, the letter from the clinic burning a hole in her mind. Can we talk? She asks quietly, her voice steady despite the fire raging inside her. Ade looks up from the phone, clearly uninterested. What now, Susan? I found this, she says, slamming the envelope on the kitchen table in front of him. Ade glances at it, his face falling. You went through my mail. I don't care about that right now, she replies, her voice low but firm. What is this? Why didn't you tell me about this test? He's silent for a long moment, his expression shifting from guilt to defensiveness. It's not what you think, he finally mutters. I made a mistake. It was a one-time thing. Who was it, Ade? Susan demands, her eyes burning with betrayal. Who were you sleeping with behind my back? I don't owe you an explanation, he snaps, standing up suddenly, pushing his chair back with force. It was just a stupid mistake. I didn't think it would matter. It matters, Susan says, her voice growing stronger. It matters because you lied to me about everything, disrespecting me, and I've given you everything and trusted you. Ade takes a step forward, his expression hardening. You're too old for me now. You've changed. I need someone younger, someone more exciting. I tried to make it work with you, Susan, but you're not what I need anymore. Susan feels the weight of his words like a crushing blow. The man she had married, the man she had given her trust and love to, she no longer recognizes the person in front of her. I trusted you, she whispers, her voice breaking. I gave you everything, and this is how you repay me? Ade looks away. He spoke stiff. You should have known better. You're not who I wanted to be with. The tension between them hung thick in the air, but Susan knew she needed answers. She had already started to piece together the lies, but one final question remained. Ade, she said slowly, her voice cold. You told me your visa expired because of your financial problems. Was that the truth? Ade froze, his eyes darting to hers. He knew where this was going. What do you mean? I spoke to my lawyer, Susan said, her words sharp. Your visa didn't expire because of your finances. You were asked to leave the country because you falsified your academic records. Immigration fair now, Ade. You've been lying about everything. The room was dead silent for a moment. Ade's face pale. He took a step back, shaking his head, and he began to stammer. You don't understand, he began, his voice faltering. I didn't want to go back to Nigeria. I didn't want to be a failure. I thought this would work. Susan's jaws tightened. You used me, Ade. You used me to stay in this country. And then you used me again when you couldn't get what you wanted from me. Later that night, Susan stood in front of Ade, her voice steady and unwavering. You need to leave, Ade, she said firmly. Now. You can't do this, he protested, his tone desperate. I'll ruin you. I'll report you for the sham marriage. You'll be the one in trouble. Susan stood her ground, her heart cold with resolution. I don't care anymore. I'm done with your lies. I'm also done with your manipulations. Ade glared at her, but knew he had lost. He grabbed his suitcase and left, slamming the door behind him. For the first time, Susan felt like a weight had been lifted off her shoulder. Several weeks later, Susan stood in her living room, the soft hum of the refrigerator filling the silence. She was sorting through a pile of mail when another envelope caught her eye. It was from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Her heart raced. The letter read, Dear Susan Harper, this letter serves as an official notification that Mr. Adeolu Ade Tunde has been found in violation of his immigration status. Upon further investigation, it was discovered that Mr. Tunde falsified his academic records in order to prolong his stay in the United States beyond the legal limits of his student visa. As a result, Mr. Tunde has been found to be in violation of immigration laws, and as such, he has been deported back to Nigeria. We regret to inform you that your name has been associated with this case due to the nature of your relationship with Mr. Tunde. However, we have now determined that you were not involved in the fraud or any criminal activity related to his visa violations. There are no further actions required from you in relation to this matter. Please note that Mr. Tunde's deportation is final and he has been executed as of the date of this notice. Should you have any questions or need further clarification, please do not hesitate to contact our office. Susan exhaled slowly as the weight of the letter sunk in. She felt a mixture of relief and anger. She had known this day was coming, but reading the official notice hit her more harder than she had expected. A few days later, Susan sat on her porch, her hands wrapped around the warm mug of tea, starting out as the sun set. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, reflecting the inner peace she now felt after weeks of turmoil. Her phone buzzed, breaking the silence. It was a message from Beth. I saw Ade's name in the paper today. They deported him back to Nigeria. Did you hear? Susan looked at the message for a moment before typing back a response. Yes, I did. It's over, Beth. It should have ended up long time ago. But it's finally here and I'm free now. Susan sets her phone down, her mind wandering to the events that led to this moment. Ade had been under intense scrutiny from the immigration officials after they discovered discrepancies in his academic records. The fraud was tied to forged transcripts that had extended his stay in the country far beyond his original visa term. In fact, he had used the student visa loophole to gain entry into the US years ago, but had never actually been enrolled in the courses he claimed. When immigration authorities launched an investigation into his history, they found that his attempts to extend his stay were based on lies about his academic process. Ade had fabricated records to avoid deportation, but once the truth was uncovered, Homeland Security quickly took action. The final straw came when immigration officials contacted Susan. They had interviewed her as part of their investigation, confirming that she had unknowingly married him to help him with his immigration status, but was not involved in fraudulent activities. They informed her that Ade would be deported immediately, but they reassured her that there were no legal actions required on her part. Susan had taken control of her life again. She had faced betrayal, manipulation, and abuse, but she had emerged stronger than she could ever have imagined. She wasn't the same woman she had been when Ade first walked into her life. She had learned to love herself, to find strength in her own resilience. That same night, Susan sat at her desk. The room was lit by a single lamp. She took out a fresh piece of paper and started to write. The words flowed from her pen as if they were waiting to be written all along. She wrote, "Dear Susan, this is your reminder. You are enough. You are always enough. You are stronger than you ever thought you could be. No one can break you unless you let them. I'm proud of you for not letting Ade destroy the beautiful, strong woman that you are. You've come through fire and now you walk in light. There will be moments of doubt and there will be scars, but those are the signs of battles fought and won. It's time to look ahead. The past is behind you and the future is yours to build. Be proud of who you are and never ever settle for less than you deserve. Yours sincerely, Susan Harper." Oh, Susan placed the letter in a box, sealing it with a small ribbon. It's a promise to herself, a vow to never forget the journey that she's been through and to never allow anyone make her fool herself again or feel small again. As she walked outside to the garden, the cool night air wrapped around her. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes, savoring the presence she now enjoyed.
The end.